Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be going over some information that came out of a bunch of Japanese media interviews with Yoshida regarding a lot of stuff both in patch 4.4 and looking forward to patch 4.5. Now, we got to give some credit where credit is due. The initial source of this is a live blog, which will be linked at the bottom of this Reddit post, and the Reddit post is from very well-known translator on Reddit, Carrier of Light. A lot of the times where we get these mass interviews from a bunch of different media outlets in Japan, Carrier of Light is almost always one of the people posting on the front page of Reddit with all this translated information. So thank you to them. As per usual, there will be a link in the description of the YouTube video for this exact Reddit post. So go over there, give them karma, give them gold, give them likes, whatever it is, just show your appreciation towards Carrier of Light for their contribution to our community. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff, as it says at the top. There are some main story spoilers here, so if you haven't played the 4.4 story, and you're not all too familiar with what's going to happen in 4.5, or at least don't have an inkling of where we're going with that, then you may want to turn the video off now. But if not, I say we get right into the goodness, because I've already read these, and it is quite some interesting stuff, especially when it comes to Eureka. I know. Let's just get started. So main scenario quests, just a lot of basic stuff. There's not too much to talk about here. Scions are empty and seem soulless. They'll talk about in part 2 of 4.5. Warrior of Light will see a turning point in 4.5. We know in the expansion we're going to become the Warrior of Darkness, so it's probably referring to that. There's going to be 2 parts to it. There's going to be a cliffhanger where they go, no, at the end of part 1, and then all the answers will be in part 2. The new instance dungeon, the Gimlet Dark, is between Alamigo and the Empire, and it's where the war is about to, outbreak. Characters from the various nations will be involved in the battle. If you've watched the trailer, you already know that. And then for this is the only interesting thing that comes out of the MSQ section. So out of the whole 14 story, where is the climax of the 4.x story located at? The answer was, let's say we call the story arc that started in 1.0 and the current flow in the MSQ, the Hydatos and Zodiac arc. We are about 60% of the way through that entire arc. I'd like to point out that doesn't mean that there's every expansion's been like 20% of the story or anything like that. It specifically means this story arc, like the Dragon Song Wars came and went. That story arc is done, and the liberation of Alamigo and the liberation of Doma. That could technically fit in this, but that doesn't mean that collectively the amount of time. It just means the amount of information, the amount that we kind of understand about this specific arc is at about 60%. So a lot of it should be coming to a head now that we're going to be finally closing out some answers going into 5.x. That's why I'm so antsy about the story-related stuff going into this expansion. Now, job adjustments is an interesting section because it says they understand machinists and monks are sending feedbacks regarding the job system itself, but a lot want huge changes, and you'll have to wait to the expansion for those. They want players to understand with that in mind. The final job adjustments will be about increasing their potencies as much as they can. We're going to rebalance them all in 5.0 anyway, so please wait until that, please wait until then for a lot of the actual job changes. So this is a band-aid, and in 5.0 they'll have to rebalance anything anyway, so the numbers that got buffed might get nerfed right back down. So fully expect to see a bit of an outrage about stuff like that. There always is whenever there's new expansion job-related information. But it's just basically, I don't know what they think monks are, what monk is sending feedback. I mean, I guess if you're not doing Tornado Kick, I could kind of understand the difference between monk and samurai, but I'm still of the opinion, even the non-Tornado Kick rotation for monk versus a samurai is kind of the amount of difference I'd want in the similar, because I like to compare people who are of similar skill levels. So if you are mostly preferring that rotation, you're probably comparing that type of player to their same performance on samurai, and they're probably doing about as much more as they should be. So I'm of the opinion, don't get me wrong, I won't turn down a monk buff. I really don't think monks need it. I think machinists and white mages, that's fair. But monks just doesn't make any sense to me. It won't matter come 5.0, but that's just my own personal opinion. Blue Mage. Oh, man. Every time there's something Blue Mage related, I have to get ready. I already know what it says, but I see the comment section now, and it's rough. So we already know Blue Mage is planning to be released 1 week after 4.5, so you can do all the MSQ and 24-man stuff, which they'll talk about a little bit later. The Blue's official name is Blue Magic Weapon, but there's not really a good translation for that, so there's all sorts of fancy names. As a reiteration, if you missed the live letter, your weapon will not matter for your damage and your stats on Blue Mage, only your armor and accessories will, and they do share gear with casters. So if you have Dreadworm caster stuff tucked aside, or if you have like level 20 to 30 caster stuff, set aside, that'll all be good for your Blue Mage. And when they hit level 50, they will get a weapon and a full set of level 50 armor. So if you don't have anything saved up, you will have a place to start. There will be 49 blue magic spells in total at level 15. Sorry, I'm getting a little congesty here. It's like 7 in the morning. But, and I love getting this kind of information, they already have about 128 spells developed, and they're planning to add them in order in the future. So one of my biggest gripes with this limited job thing, I'm actually gonna... there we go. Sorry, this is also being live recorded on Twitch, so I can't even edit that kind of stuff out. Whatever. But they already have around 128 spells developed. So one of my biggest things about Blue Mage is that I was worried they were just going to update it once and then never again. You know, it was going to fall the way of Eggy Glamours, and then this job everyone really wants to play and enjoy and are still kind of hesitant about just falls into obscurity. If they keep updating it, that doesn't happen. And so the question was, what's it going to look like update schedule-wise? But 128 spells, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's spells that are in the game, and then they just have to make them work on Blue Mage for the most part. But they still have to consider the way they interact with things like the Carnival or any of the other content that Blue Mage is going to be entering. So it's good for me to hear they have almost triple the number of actual spells already planned for the job, and they were only getting 49 for the time right now. There are no set bonuses for Blue Magic, like setting 2 of them gives you a bonus. But there are going to be combo things where you use one debuff and then it makes the other spell way stronger. So there is going to be some sort of combo activity when you're considering which spells to take with one another. They've commented on this before. There are cases where the instant death debuff works on some bosses, maybe the first or second boss in a dungeon or something like that. I'm amazed they're letting that happen, but considering what Blue Mage is, I'm not that surprised. Why would they make that warning regarding it? Which, by the way, they already also commented, we won't learn level 5 death until level 60 on Blue Mage anyway. But it's just funny to me that they're letting it work on anything, because it almost gives validation to the comment, but not really, because the whole level 5 death, they can't go into Binding Coil or something with that and use it to one-shot them. Of course you can. You can just make them resist it. You've already shown that right here. So I didn't like that excuse when they gave it when they first revealed Blue Mage. Like, oh, you could take level 5 death into, level 60, 70 raids and then just insta-kill. No, you can't. Just make them resist it. Anyway, moving on. The stronger the Blue Magic, more MP it costs. Just some more information regarding to the spells. Some will be easy to learn. Some will be difficult. They'll give you hints, but you still have to find it yourself. Each different Blue Magic has different probability to learn. We learn this in the live letter, but every Blue Mage in the party will learn it at the same time if anyone learns it at all. So you don't have to worry about one Blue Mage learning all the spells if you're with a group of friends and the other one's getting screwed. They also learn that in the live letter as well. So there are ways around this, like learning high-level Blue Magic from a stronger opponent by getting someone who's a higher level to carry you. Now, to be fair, this was kind of expected. People do expect Blue Mages to go into some of those primals unsynced with their level 70 friends and probably learn that way and then take turns doing it. Maybe you do 4 and 4, then the other 4 swap, and then the other 4 people are on Blue Mage. Something along those lines. Or you could just have your friends help you in general, and maybe you help them with something else in return. But we already kind of expected that. It'll probably work like that in other content as well. Fates and treasure hunts can give you EXP, but the EXP you gain for beating normal mobs in the open world is way higher for Blue Mage, and this allows you to reach level 20 pretty comfortably. Don't know why they mentioned level 20 in particular, but man. Apparently, it's going to be really fun to do a dungeon with 4 blues. Oh, people are already thinking about that. There's Blue Magic buffs that allow you to play like a tank. Yeah, so we know that Mighty Guard is a tank stance for Blue Mage. What we don't know is if they have a provoke of any kind. They are mentioning literally 4 Blue Mages, so that means you don't really need a tank swap. But for me, it's still, like, I'm thinking about some of the other stuff like Shiva and trials like that. But we'll see. Mass Carnival will have basic rewards like guild, tomestones, and allied seals, and special bonuses for meeting certain conditions such as receive 0 damage or beat it as fast as possible. The rewards for the Mass Carnival this time isn't something that all players want, and instead are rewards that Blue Mages specifically may want. Yeah, they said that in the live letter, in the future they were going to do things like mounts and glamours and gear and stuff like that to really tantalize people, but with the first iteration of the Mass Carnival, they wanted people to be familiar with it first before they incorporated any of that major stuff. So this just kind of reiterates that point. There are no plans to have beating the Mass Carnival to be a condition to do another form of content. They don't want to have to do any sort of balancing with gating content behind the Mass Carnival. Makes perfect sense. I don't see a reason why they would do it. So when the level cap for Blue is raised, higher tiers of the Mass Carnival will be added. We all kind of assume that. The schedule for Blue's level cap increase. Now, this is a big one because people have been questioning a lot of stuff about Blue Mage, and they kind of just put it all to rest right in this one comment. The next timing will be the patch after 5.0. So that could be 5.05 or that could be 5.1. My guess would be 5.1. So that is when Blue Mage will go up to, presumably, level 60. So that immediately dispels rumor number one that Blue Mage could hit 80 before Shadowbringers, because a lot of people keep suggesting this, and we keep saying no. They've said repeatedly it's not going to be a max level job ever. It might be difficult to expect the level cap to reach 80 during 5.0. That means that even if their level cap is 5.1, that they may just go up to level 70 by the time they're on with 5.0. So other people have suggested it'll be level 80 by some point early in Shadowbringers, and then it'll be caught up, and you get... No! They don't want it to be. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Blue Mage is going to get 60 in 5.1. I think they're going to do it a week after 5.1's release. Actually, no, they won't, because Ultimate will be 2 weeks after. Actually, they could still do that. I guess it doesn't matter. And then they'll do level 70 in 5.3. Now, based on feedback on limited jobs, I suspect 5.5 will be a new limited job. That's what I'm thinking. And then they don't have to worry about increasing the level cap on it again. Sorry, I hit my mic. That's what I think is going to happen. There's nothing to suggest that. But just know, no, Blue Mage is not going to be level 80 for Shadowbringers, or at least it's hard to expect it. Do not plan on maining it at any point. It is content to be enjoyed on top of whatever you normally do in the game, separated from it. With that, we can move on to Seiryu. So with regards to what's going on to Oryu, or as we know him, Koryu, of course, they have a story. There's a finale that's planned. They hope the Final Fantasy XI players will really enjoy Tenzin's completed story. Seiryu is a good-looking guy. Thank you, Yoshida. Thank you. This will be the last trial of the expansion. The last Primal, I guess he officially calls it according to this translation. But of the 4.x series, we know Yojimbo has an encounter. We fully expect to get the Yojimbo encounter because it appeared at Fan Festival and part of the Hildebrand questline as a whole as well. So even though he says it's the last trial, I think the reason he says last primal is because we do designate primals in patches, even though the Four Lords, from a lore standpoint, are not primals. We still kind of call them that, So I think that's what he's trying to separate the iteration from. To answer this question, why aren't we getting Amaterasu? They said that the art direction was too similar to Lakshmi, so the idea was scrapped in early stages of development. It makes sense. Lakshmi is literally like the only piece of Alamigan story that we kind of get until we actually take back Alamigo. Like, we get very little on the Alamigo side across the entirety of 4.x. At least I feel that way. And if they had given us Amaterasu, we literally wouldn't have even had a primal over in the West other than Shinryu, which is a big one, but... yeah, it's just, I kind of get why they went with that direction. Yoshida personally felt like the ultimate moves for Byakuya and Suzaku were too long. Yoshida, I love you. I love you so much. So he told the young devs in charge of the primals to keep that in mind, and Seiryu was created after he told them that. Yoshida, I love you. Because I don't mind Suzaku's that much, but Byaku's I really don't like. Suzaku's is long, I'll give you that, but just... thank you. That's all I gotta say. Seiryu's reward will be weapons, rare crafting item like other primals. You can make the chocobo armor or tabletop housing item, and of course a mount. All the same kind of loots we come to expect from trials. Hydatos, big news. That's scary. When you see big news and Eureka right next to each other, that's scary. The high-end public dungeon in Hydatos has a limit to how many players can join during one attempt. That limit is not 144 players. So this immediately dispels some of the things we've been expecting, where it would be a lot like an emergency mission for Diadem, where you pretty much needed everyone in the zone present, and you needed as full a zone as possible to even think of attempting the emergency mission in Diadem. That will not be the case here. It will be you will want to control the amount of people who are actually entering, and if I had to guess, 24, maybe 72, but I'm going to guess 24 would be the amount they're going for. They did, in a recent interview that we discussed, refer to this sort of as like an ultimate alliance raid, or maybe a savage alliance raid. That is kind of the thing they went for. So that is the number that I'm going to predict, but they haven't said for certain. And first you need to set it up so you can enter the dungeon, and each player who wants to enter also needs the right. So basically they're trying to emulate everyone needing to farm a specific thing in order to be allowed to enter this public dungeon. So that's kind of emulating all old school MMOs, you know, where you used to have to have like all these requirements met in order to enter stuff, like a key item or a spawn item or things like that. So it looks like you're going to need to farm a key item in order to get the ability to enter, and then everyone needs that. Having a limited number of players who can join in one attempt, it means it will take a long time to win the fight. And he wants players to understand that this portion of the content isn't mandatory to enjoy Hydatos. It's literally the final end content for those who are up to it. So I'm curious if that means the relic isn't tied to this last little step right here. Because in theory, the relic is one of the biggest draws of this content, you know, for Eureka. And so if this isn't something that's mandatory, it has to be implied that there isn't a part of the relic step that goes in here. Now, they didn't say that. That's what based on their saying that I would predict. So, well, they made sure to add some context. So let's read some of the other stuff. In order to beat the public dungeon, you will need tons of Logos actions. They will be adding a few new ones, but not many. Still doesn't answer if we can use the exact same logograms going into the next zone, which is a question that a lot of us have, but we'll have to wait and see. They assume it will take some time until someone beats the public dungeon for the first time. If you totally fail, you might get kicked out. There will also be Eurekan armor, so there will be more armor in Hydatos. I actually did not expect this, but you cannot upgrade it just like the weapon. So it's basically exactly like Pyros items, according to this. The stats are pretty okay, and each role will have different armor like Pyros. They designed the armor to go with the final step of the Eureka weapon, so it will glow and be really shiny. So it's literally an armor set to match the weapon. Kind of goes back to the old, artifact stuff. Artifact stuff has always been like that, and Eureka did start as an upgrade step for artifact stuff initially. So it's good to hear that it's kind of going to be going back to everything belongs in a set. Hopefully it looks really good. Pagos will be nerfed in 4.5, and it'll continue to get nerfs after 4.5, which, you know, we kind of expected. We expect all of Eureka to be mostly soloable by the time Shadowbringers comes around, because they always make the old relic steps like almost entirely soloable, if not entirely soloable. So, and then that's it. That's what they said for Eureka. Some good information there. On top of the Blue Mage stuff, this is a really solid interview or set of interviews, or, you know, Japanese media questions or whatever not. Then we have Orbon Monastery, which is the 24-man, the finale of the Return to Ivalice raid. Story quest leads up to Orbon, has a lot of volume. Hopefully it's not trying to get some bacon bread. You know, real volume would be nice. He warns players that if you skip this part of the quest, you'll end up losing 1/3 of the surprises included in 4.5, because there's a super impactful scene. Oh boy. Yeah, not skipping those. To make sure you don't skip that scene, he advises players to remove the escape key from your keyboard and the cancel button from your controllers. Please do that. There's some important dialogue you cannot rewatch in the inn. So if you have the slightest interest, read every word or letter. Will do. Yoshida cried during 2 scenes when he was doing the scenario checks for 24-man right, dude. I don't think we've ever heard Yoshida cry over story quests before. So that's important. That makes me really want to enjoy this. He said that during the live letter also, but like to see it reiterated is intense. After each cutscene, the dialogue between each of the NPCs in the airship changes. He advises players check all of the dialogue of all the NPCs between each of the cutscenes. If they include the epilogue, the scenario for the 24-man might even be longer than part 1 of the MSQ, and the cutscenes are also well made. The Ivalice fans might be pleased with the amount of references when they talk to the NPCs after they clear the content. The Numo race will not show up in the Return to Ivalice, and the soundtrack from the Ivalice Alliance series will be present, stuff like Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XII, etc. So basically just stuff that makes me really want to finish the Evolution raid series, and I plan to. That's going to be a big thing the day January 8th comes around. Rival Wings 2 Hidden Gorge. Yeah, you know what? I won't say anything. Let's just read it. Rival Wings 2 will be implemented in 4.55. There will be a new mechanic, a Goblin Bodyguard, Yojimbo being the Japanese word for bodyguard. The tides will change depending on who the Goblin Bodyguard sides with. And apparently the bodyguard is Lame Brick Strikebox. I have a feeling he's going to be a running joke as a goblin. Like, not that he's a weak goblin, but like, they're just going to keep shoving him in all these goblin-related things. So the thing about Lame Bricks, in case no one remembers from A10, he escapes. We don't kill him in A10. And it appears we kill him in Pyros, but now I don't think we've killed him. I think he's going to be like the Gilgamesh of goblins, the Goblin Mesh. He's just going to constantly escape and come back and be used in other things. So I think it's hilarious, but Lanebrix is going to side with the team that deals the most damage to him. The bodyguard is extremely strong, so you'll need a group to bring him to your side. The goblin will show up and throw these mechanics at the enemy. So instead of fighting over, I guess, the mid, you fight over Lanebrix, in a sense, in this one. I guess that's one generalization. That may not be 100% accurate. I'm assuming he rides the train into combat, and then you have to fight him in the middle. That's what I would like to assume. Just like Rival Wings 1, the robots you can summon have a limit. Fight near the end of the battle will be true chaos. And people should enjoy it way more than Rival Wings 1. Please. Please. They asked what the mount reward will be, but all he answered with was, LOL. Please let us just be riding Lanebrix. Or the train. One of the two. I want to ride Lanebrix. Please, giggity. They will temporarily close Rival Wings 1 Astrologos when they implement Hidden Gorge to get people into the new one, and then after some time, they might bring back Rival Wings 1 and put them in a roulette. So that's kind of what we expected. They've been doing this when they introduced new maps to stuff. They did it with treasure maps also. The Hidden Canals or the Lost Canals of Uznair, and then also the roulette wheel. They made the roulette wheel more common. Just the spawn rate overall of the actual portal was the same. Regards to merging TP and MP at 5.0, it's about removing TP rather than merging TP and MP. This has led to, of course, a lot of people have been saying that it's not a merging, where there's been some translations that say that as opposed to removing. There are plenty of translations that say removing as well. And this has led a lot of people to assume that anything that uses TP will no longer require TP, which would be kind of strange. So, curious to see what they do. Invigorating Tactician will be removed. We have our first 2 confirmed removed actions. Not adjusted, completely removed. They're going to have a huge revamp for role actions, so those might feel different. Yeah, we'll see how that goes again. They don't want to add more actions. They don't want to fill up the hotbar more than it's already full, so of course they're going to be scaling back on some actions, combining actions, stuff like that. Yeah, it's stuff you'd come to expect. They've also already decided their direction they're going with resistance down type actions. So those have been a big problem in regards to balance. I wonder if the answer is bye-bye. Bye-bye piercing, bye-bye slashing, bye-bye blunt resistance. Not that anyone cared for you anyway. But it doesn't say that. That's my own personal hope. So we'll see what happens. Then we got a Mahjong section. Mahjong rule they're using is what you commonly see in Japan, Riichi Mahjong. They added all kinds of tutorials for beginners. They designed the Mahjong UI to be window to be independent, so it's easier for you to see your own character. You can chat during Mahjong with full cooperation. They used the Mahjong engine that has shown good results in the past. You basically don't need MGP to play, but you will be rewarded with MGP if you beat an NPC. And real-life Mahjong items might be considered if people request it. Yeah, so there's not really much to say about that. It's all just Mahjong information to let people know more about the Mahjong. It's not really too much information to draw. It's all pretty straightforward. World Visit System. The World Visit System is planned for 4.57 to 4.58, which is several weeks before Shadowbringers is out. Some players are worried they will not be able to return to their home if they visit, but there's a border on how many visitors can enter a world. He explained that it's very complex. The max number of visitors doesn't interfere with people from the home world because it's a completely different bracket, so you don't need to worry. They'll prioritize players from the home world when you return, so unless the server is totally full, you'll be able to play comfortably. That makes things interesting because he said they'll prioritize it, so unless the server is totally full. I'm curious if that means you could get stranded, if you could get stranded outside the boundaries of your home world. It's not abundantly clear. He just says that you're prioritized on the way coming back. You don't need Gil to visit another world. Additional features. They are fighting hard to do something with the delivery Moogle, but are struggling. You'll not be able to use free company actions when you're visiting a different world and won't be able to activate them. This is expected. You can't use a lot of stuff on the other world. You're not on the same server as your FC anymore. They are totally expecting the economy to change after the World Visit System is implemented, and there will probably be a few waves to change it. Yeah, it's all standard stuff. Just kind of reiterate stuff we already expected or knew, and brings up the hilarious points with these two. And then there's just some other information here at the bottom. They'll be adding rewards to all kinds of content 4.5, but the Gold Saucer will be where you can get a lot of them. So it sounds like that mount is not the only new reward the Gold Saucer has coming. Just like in 4.3, you'll be able to upgrade your crafted battle gear. This is where you hand in your crafted battle gear, and you get a token that lets you buy non-crafted gear. That's a little bit item level, the item level's a little bit higher. They're just doing the same thing again. Some players cried about accidentally obtaining the normal quality item back in 4.3, so there won't be any NQ upgrade items this time around. It pretty much just means it'll always be high quality. The majority of housing items will be those designed by contest winners, including the home gardening set and the Fat Cat sofa. The extra B-Stripe story will be in 4.56. The probability of getting sent to the Lost Canals of Osnair won't be touched. You currently have a higher chance of opening a new portal. They said they might revert it to 50-50 in the future. It's not much, but they will add a few new rewards to Osnair. Rewards will also be added to submarine voyages. Ad Karag will be the highest reward custom delivery NPC. And also, of course, you'll be able to change his outfit and find out what's under that head. There will be small additions to red and yellow scripts, but nothing major. And it won't include gear. And they are trying to allow players to hold 8 cross-world link shells, but they are not sure if it will be implemented in 4.58 or 5.0. They are intending to make players switch from link shells to cross-world link shells in the future. So they're really trying to push this cross-world narrative above all else. This is something I suspected they would probably do. Get rid of the link shell system as a whole, make them only cross-world. Now, here's the thing. I have no problem with that. In fact, I think it's probably the best direction going forward. I will say that cross-world link shells, one of the problems is you can only hold one of them right now. It's good to hear they're addressing that. The other issue is there's only 64 slots. So I didn't see any mention of that here, and I hope they do allow it to have the same number of people that a regular link shell can have if they're going to outright replace the system overall. Because there are people who may just choose to keep a link shell slot to their own server, and for them to be inhibited, and I know quite a few that would be unpleasant. But it's good to hear they are making advancements there, and they are trying to move the game into be a much more cross-world centric game. I think it's better for the health of the game. It makes server choice less pressurized on the player. And it honestly helps in the case of whenever there's a server that in general just doesn't have a great reputation. It doesn't really matter because you're not just playing with your server. You really are playing with everyone else. And the sooner they bridge the gap with free companies and link shells, then the sooner that choice just doesn't matter as much. But anyway, that's it for all the interviews. Again, here is at the bottom the blog, the livedoor.jp, with all of the initial sources. And again, thank you to Carrier of Light for your translations on all of this, because this was a great set of information coming prior to patch 4.5. So much appreciated for your hard work as for always. And of course, in case you missed it at the beginning, there's a link in the description for this Reddit post, which then has the source for the blog post. But anyway, let me know what you thought on the YouTube comment section. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Discuss on some of the stuff here, especially some stuff I know you guys are going to be at each other's throats over. And I'm going to get back to my Twitch stream, because like I said, this has been live on Twitch the whole time. So I just wanted to do this first. But thank you, everyone, for watching. I will see you in the next video. And until then,